This is In the Name of Football. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the In the Name of Football podcast. We weren't here last week, but we are here this week. So, well, that's a bit of luck. Well, we had a little bit of just recording issues, but we're back. So let's get stuck into it. We're going to be
connected
chatting
to the Biffa-bin Wi-Fi, weren't you? Nicking your neighbours or something, weren't you?
Yeah, that sounds about right. Now, I don't know what we had. There wasn't actually any issues with it, but I literally come off there recording and it was fine. I don't know what was going on. Like you said, like maybe the neighbour changed his password or whatever, but I don't know. But yeah, no, we've got lots to talk about. Obviously, we haven't done anything about Manchester United at all this season, so we're going to have to get stuck into there. And I've had a week to calm down, so maybe I don't look like such a melon now, which is good. We'll also be looking at Man City again, running away with it already. Do you know what I mean? It's just stupid, like 3 wins in 3, even with Guardiola not there. So we can talk about that. We're also going to be looking at Liverpool today and what a superb result they had up at Newcastle, like playing with an hour with 10 men. But we'll go into deeper conversation around that later on. We're also going to be looking at some refereeing decisions because I think it's under the microscope at the minute. But I think, yeah, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it in more detail later. We'll have the roundup on the Premier League, our Premier League Fantasy Football League as well. It hasn't really updated for this week as of we were recording, but we'll look at it anyway because we've still got Saturday's results in there. And also we'll give our Player of the Week, which hopefully we actually have got one this week because we didn't do it the first week. Anyway,
obviously we didn't do it last week either because no episode. So first segment of Player of the Week to happen third week in, hopefully, if we don't forget again.
Yeah, of course. Right. But as always, he's jumped in a couple of times on the intro, but I am joined by Ash. How you doing, buddy?
2-2 at home to Fulham. Not fantastic.
Well, we get stuck into that as well, obviously. But yeah, I mean, that was a bit of a shocker. You know, I saw 1-0. I was like, I looked at my phone. I was like 1-0 Forest. I was like, for God's sake! And then I was like, oh, I don't feel so bad now because Arsenal are losing. And then I got in Matt's van, and he was like, I'm sure he just said it's 2-0. And I'm like, what? Arsenal losing 2-0? And he's like, no. And I'm like, oh, you're not joking. No. Like, it's just, And I saw the kickoff on my phone as well. And I saw that we were attacking the Stretford end in the that first half. And I think last year we scored like 83% of our goals at the Stretford end. I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be a long day. Anyway, right, look, we're back. Well, let's get stuck into it. I don't want to waste a lot of time today. So we'll get stuck into it. And obviously, we're going to have to talk about Manchester United first because we haven't visited them the whole entire season so far. We've only done one episode of the season, but we've missed last week. So yeah, obviously starting the first game of the season, Wolves, very piss poor performance, but I think they're just our bogey team, to be fair with you. I think, I think it's the way it is, because obviously they got hammered the week after against Brighton and then they beat Everton yesterday 1-0. But I just think, you look at it, that was just a real bad performance against a team we've predicted to be absolutely shocking this year, to be fair with you. And, at first, I don't think it really should have been a penalty, but then I was convinced later on, it should have been a penalty. But then it's just a weird decision, like how these things, like, Anana didn't mean it, but then who does actually mean to go in and do a tackle, right? It's just, that's why it's a foul, because you've messed up, right? So yeah, very shoddy performance against Wolves. Very lucky to get away with a 1-0 win, and I'm just saying they're our bogey team. And then we turn up at Spurs, and again, 45 minutes could have easily been a couple up, I suppose, and then just turned into pure dog shite. It's just what on earth was going on there, And I think
Ten Hag actually said that he thought the first half performance was very impressive. He was happy with it, and You know, that Bruno chance, if he scored that header, you know, it could be a different
Oh,
story. But I
yeah,
mean, I don't know what happened there.
no, it was an absolute shocker, wasn't it? Especially for Bruno as well. He's usually, you know, and the thing is, I think it was one of them chances as well. He didn't realise, I think, but it's like he could have actually brought it down on his chest, had a cup of tea, gone to sleep, had some breakfast, waited for the keeper to come out, rounded him and scored. Do you know what I mean? It was one of them. He had too much. He probably had too much time. Do you know what I mean? Like, it sounds daft, but you know, like Arioni yesterday, that first goal, he easily could have missed that, right? It's like one of them, right? You think he's got too much time. Anyway, but yeah, I just thought it was, and I think the worrying thing for me with them two performances was when you had Wolves. They had a manager there for 3 days. They looked a better side than us, who we've been there for like 14 months now with Ten Hag. Ange Postecoglou, he's got the team there for what, 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks. Lost his best player, his talesman of the team, and yeah, they looked again a much better side than us, and that was probably my main concern. And I was a bit not. I still don't think I was off the cuff to say to you, like, what is going on, like you know, because ultimately questions will be asked of a manager who spent nearly 350 to 400 million within the space of what, 3 transfer windows, and also you know, when you're playing against teams who are hardly had a manager there for like 5 minutes and they're looking more of a side than you, that's a big concern. But then I did hear what Ten Hag said. I think someone raised a question to him pre-Forest, or it was after, either pre-Forest or after the Tottenham game, and he actually said, "Yeah, it's a very telling contribution. I think we played something like 7 games, 7 preseason games in the space of like 17 days across six cities." And it was like, what on earth? You're like, I didn't think about that. And apparently we spent more time on our tour traveling than training. So we're looking leggy already. And that's why, because theoretically we're like 2 weeks behind everyone else in pre-season, where you've got Man City. I think they've stayed in one city. All their games, one city. I think, something like that. And I think it's terrible that the club is being run like that. It's still like this commercial chain. That's what it's about, right? You know, like,
Yeah, of course.
I think we played 2 games back to back twice. I know they played the reserves in one of them. They played like an under-21 side, but then Ten Hag still got to travel. The team's still got to travel, so they're still traveling around, and they're not bloody playing. Do you know what I mean? They're not training, are they? You know. So I kind of think I am still apprehensive. I'm not as bad as I was, but I still think we're going to get absolutely trounced next week. So no podcast next week. No, I honestly, mate, I'm writing it off already. We aren't. It's going to be like last year where we get absolutely pummeled away from home. Like them results, like yesterday. Like, we'll get back to that now. We're obviously on today. Yesterday's result, Saturday's result against Forest. Yeah, you know, the first one gone over Rashford's head. What's Rashford doing there in the first place, defending on a corner? I don't know. Anyway, Awi only goes clean through. I don't know. Did Onana slip? He just like looked like he's on his ass.
Yeah, that was a bit weird.
Really weird. I don't know whether there was a when I watched it back. I don't know whether Onana only slightly touched it and made it like
it's like he's reacted to that like a touch or something.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
He's thought he shot, and then he actually hasn't, and he's already gone.
And I don't think Arioni even meant it. I think it was just one of those he slightly touched it and it hasn't gone off his. Yeah. And then obviously the second goal, he didn't even know it. Bowley didn't even know it hit him. Do you know what I mean? And before, like, that's right in the corner, so you can't blame Onana before everyone starts going, he's a shit keeper, because he's not. We're already playing better football out from the back, and all the players look so comfortable giving the ball. It's unreal. It's like, what the fuck is going on? You know what I mean? Like, we're actually playing football from the back, and I think once we get Hoyland up there, maybe it'll be like I saw that yesterday again towards the end of the game, long clearance from Onana, and it's coming straight back again because we haven't got no one up there to hold the ball, and that's looking worrying. But it's just a concern, like we're relying on a 19-year-old kid coming back or making his debut. to rely on that. And a club of Manchester United size shouldn't be relying on a 19-year-old up front, which we've done so many times in the past.
I think in general for United, okay, albeit it's not been a fantastic start, but you've got 2 wins out of 3, and to be fair to Tottenham, yes, Postecoglou has only been there for 6 weeks, and Ten Hag's been there 14 months, you said. But Tottenham have been very impressive to start. They may even be better without Kane. But we'll talk about Tottenham a little bit more later. But it's not the worst starts. You've got 6 points. I just think a lot of it is very, very reactionary. Ten Hag himself said, last season he responded sort of saying, they struggled last time. The 4-0 loss to Brentford, the home defeat to Brighton as well. So I think a lot of it is just very, very reactionary, and I think at time it will happen. Rashford does not play well up front. He's not good enough. He's not. It just doesn't suit his game there. He's so much more effective from the left, and your overall play is, it's hurt with him up there and not on the left. And I know Martial played up top against Forest, but as you said, when you get Højlund in there, that will be a lot different. And I even said to you, and I think I might have even said on this podcast, that United played a lot better when Wout Weghorst was in the team. That is when United played their best football. It doesn't matter how good he is or whether he can finish or how many goals he got, but it's just what he brought to the team, and he, holding the ball up, allowing the likes of Rashford to get in behind with his pace, just allowing the team and the rest of the team to get up the pitch a bit more. I think in general it suited him, and that's why you need a proper centre forward in there. So I'd still take at this point you've got 2 wins out of 3. It could have been a lot worse. I think at this moment in time you're going to have to take it. And I just think a lot of it is just overreactionary. Some of the stuff you were saying after that Tottenham defeat. What was it you said about Ten Hag?
I still have my doubts. Like, it's like, I don't know whether you've got to back your manager, as in the club back the manager in the transfer window and stuff like that, and I get it. But my concern is that you don't see Pep Guardiola buying Spanish players constantly. You don't see Pep Guardiola always going back to Barcelona. You don't see Arteta going to Man City constantly. All right, he did buy Zinchenko and he did buy Jesus. And you don't see Arteta buying. But it's just every single time I just question, why are we going after always something to do with the Eredivisie, or always something to do with Ten Hag's past? Weghorst, Sabitzer was something, I don't know actually. I think, sorry, don't quote me on the Sabitzer one. But you've got Malacia. I'm trying that now. I'm thinking about it. I can't really think. Mason Mount was on loan in Holland when he was over there. Bloody hell, Anthony Martinez. And it's just constantly, now it's Gravenbach.
Well, clearly he goes to the players that he trusts and he likes, which is obviously natural.
But also, it's like, Pep Guardiola. Did he go straight to Man City when they had the money and buy Busquets, Alba, Messi? No, he didn't, because he created. He brought these other players in. Arteta hasn't gone to Man. Well, he took Zinchenko, fair enough, but and Jesus, they weren't the best players at Man City. They were players who he thought could improve Arsenal, but he's going elsewhere. But I do have an opinion on that later on, so we'll talk about that more in depth with Arteta anyway. But having that issue with building the team of that team shouldn't be like that. And there is, but then I start to think about other things. Like, I had something which was a question which was fired out about Mason Mount, but pre-Forest. A lot been said about Mason Mount, and he's not playing that particularly well in midfield. And Ten Hag was like, well, it's a bit like Eriksen, where he's got to adapt to that position. And I'm thinking, no, you buy a player for that position. You don't buy a player to adapt to that position. Like you don't go and buy. I don't go and buy a player on Football Manager who's a striker and hope that he turns out to be a good goalkeeper. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I'm just like, why are you buying Mason Mount if you don't if you don't think he is that number 8? And you know, because to me, I don't know about yourself, but I think if you swap Bruno and Mount around, you'd probably have a lot better freaking side. You know, Bruno Fernandes played in a two-man midfield for Sporting Lisbon. But now all of a sudden he's this creative midfielder at a 10. And yes, he is a brilliant number 10. I'm not going to say he's not. But Mason Mount's more of a 10 than he is an 8. Yeah. So why are they trying to shoehorn a player in? A team like Manchester United should not, a club like Manchester United should not be shoehorning players in.
Yeah,
you know, we
see that point.
You know, you shouldn't. Mason Mount shouldn't be adapting to a position. You should be going to buy a player to suit that position in the first place. And it's not just Mason. It's not just Mason Mount. I'm questioning other stuff like, okay, we want to talk about Eric Ten Hag and why I kind of like my jury's a little bit, you know. We won the Carabao Cup final last year. We won the Carabao Cup. Look at the run we had to the Carabao Cup final. I don't think we played a top team in the cup.
Oh yeah, I mean, and it's the Carabao Cup anyway.
If it's the Carabao Cup, it doesn't matter. It's still a cup competition, Ash. You still got to try and, you know, we could have had Man City in the semis and lost it because when we got to the final of the FA Cup, look at the games we played in the FA Cup where we struggled. Everton, we finally got our asses into gear against Everton and finally beat them. West Ham, I think we narrowly beat them. Eventually, I think we were one that exactly. You know, so and then a bit of a concern of mine, which there's another guy on. I was thinking it, and then I saw it on Twitter. The guy, I think he's something like a Holland lad or something like that. He's really good on like Dutch football. He was like, I noticed it with. I said this about Ollie as well. You're playing a team like Wolves. You could have dropped any one of them players after that Wolves game. Not one person for me stood out apart from Onana, who done what he had to do in certain points. You get to the next game, same team. Yes, I know that you're trying to gild players into their positions. You're trying to do that. But when you've got a player like Anthony, who struggled last year, well, he wasn't so good last year, but then he turns up against Wolves, putting a shower shit performance, starts the next game. Garnacho looked completely off it against Wolves, starts the next game. Rashford looks out up front, starting the next game.
But
hang on. Whoa, there's no consequence for bad performance. And when you've got no,
you can't just drop a player after one performance.
No, but it's consistent, isn't it? Because Anthony wasn't performing well last year.
Well, so he just plays one game to start the season and doesn't have the best game. You just drop him after the one game of the season. This is what I think. This is reactionary. It's all right. Say give the team 5 games, maybe make a couple of changes here or there. But the bulk of it should, by and large, be the same for the first 5 games. Because as a manager, you should have that plan in place for your first 5 games, the way you want to go about it, how you want to set up it, and you have to realise that it may eventually take a few games for it to all settle in. You're going to start making reactionary decisions after 1 game, 2 games, just because you haven't had the best of performances, even though you've won 2 out of those 3 games, by the way, and you come back from 2-0 down, which, okay, at home to Forest, you don't expect. But the fact is the team still managed to come back from 2 goals down, and you created a lot of chances. That, to me, isn't saying that the team is an absolute disaster. There's just a few tweaks that you potentially have to make here or there for the system to eventually work. Once you get a striker in and Højlund starts playing and the system starts flowing, you're probably going to be absolutely fine. I just think, by and large, most of it is just incredibly reactionary.
It's not just that. This is also based on going on last year when bad performances were being rewarded for just consistently starting a player, just for the sake of having that player. And yes, I started thinking what you're saying is a reaction. You said to me, Cole, this is reactionary stuff. And I think someone then tweeted this guy, this Ajax lad or something. He's really deep. I can't remember his name now. But he was like, Ajax have lost 2 games or something like this. Hasn't happened since Ten Hag was there when he... he said, this reminds me of when Ten Hag used to reward bad performances after bad performances with keeping the same team constantly week in, week out. And I was like, really? You know what I mean? It just struck a chord. And I was anyway, look, you know, but then I hear the other stuff of the pre-season tour and stuff like that. And you think, okay, yeah, I kind of get it as that. But I still also think, and this is again, and this isn't just a Glazer thing. I always try and look at it and think, well, is it really a Glazer thing? And then actually it is, because it's the people who are running the club. Like John Murtock, right? Do you know where John Murtock come from, our director of football?
No.
Everton. Just let that sink in.
So
right?
Wayne Rooney.
Don't think. No, mate, you weren't there then, right? Don't think Everton and think, oh, well, what, are you bigger than Everton? Well, yeah, we are bigger than Everton. But what the fuck have they done with their transfers in the last 10 years? Or whenever, last 5-10 years, right? And again, Richard Arnold. What sort of
Oh, I
background
see
is
what you're
that?
saying now. I thought you were
So
just saying
what
just because he was like a secret agent because he's Scouse or something. I was
No.
like, hang
But
on a minute, wait
but what
about
I'm saying
what about
is,
Rooney?
you've got people in that club ultimately making the decisions again who know fuck all about football. The Glazers, they're in charge of this club, and it just goes down that list. And I'm not putting it all back to them, but ultimately, when you're sitting there, come on, should a team like Manchester United be now scrapping around for a midfielder on the last week of the transfer window? Should we be looking for? I did. This is what I'm not happy about this one. To be fair, that we've now been with Cucurella and Alonso, and I think Ryan frickin' Bertrand I saw, which has to be a wind up, right? But I just thought, don't get me wrong. I actually think Cucurella is good. I know he hasn't had a great time at Chelsea, but tell me a player who's going to come out with a decent, any sort of credibility from Chelsea in the last 18 months. So, my question mark there is, you've got Martinez who can play left back. You've also got Alvaro Fernandez, who was absolutely class at Preston last year on loan. So what, we're not going to give these players a go anymore? Like, give them a go. That's what they're there for. So yeah, and we shouldn't be scrapping around for these players. Manchester United, right? Everyone's sitting there going, Højlund, Kane. They should have got Kane. They should have got Højlund. No, they should have gotten both. Right? Regardless of whether that cost us 200 million or whatever we paid for Højlund plus Kane, they should have gotten both. I don't disagree with you. And every time someone asks me about Kane and Højlund, I always use your analogy, because I never thought of it like that. And I thought it was one of the best analogies you said. Just, your comparisons. And I thought that was absolutely brilliant. It's spot on where we were in the project, etc. But they should have bought them both. We can't be relying on fucking Højlund and Martial, man.
No.
And you're scrapping around for midfielders. Amrabat should have been done freaking weeks ago, mate. The geezers, apparently, Amrabat has rejected Liverpool. He's rejected Juventus, Napoli, moves to Saudi, because he's apparently agreed a move to Manchester United. Oh, another one who played under Ten Hag in the Eredivisie, by the way, ages ago, right? I'm just saying. But this is come on. If you're a serious club, you do not be pissing around in the last week of the transfer window, potentially trying to find free signings.
Well, yeah, and obviously this is another thing where there's only so much performances on the pitch can improve things or can change things. Obviously, fundamentally, if there's issues above that, it's going to filter down, and I mean that's clearly present, and we've spoken about that in the past, haven't we?
I mean,
the way the club's run and from the top and everything, it is going to make an impact.
I mean, we have said that we wouldn't talk about this situation on the podcast, so we're not going to go into it. But the way they handled the Mason Greenwood situation, whether you believe or anything, whatever, the way they handled it, forget about what's right, what's wrong, whatever. The way they handled it was disgusting. Like, the club is just a shower of shit, to be honest with you. It's being run like a bunch of amateurs. And until they do you know what I said the other day? The best thing they can do to that place, right? The sit-in protests, yes, I know there's certain things you can do. The only thing they can realistically do is run on the pitch every game and just keep going and going. That's the way you do it, right? You just get every game abandoned and postponed and held back for 20 minutes, because that will make a massive mark, wouldn't it? You just run on the pitch. Imagine that every Premier League game at Old Trafford, like 10-15 minute delay, because there's fans on the pitch. They can't ban 60,000 people, right? Or whoever can get on the pitch. I said, fuck it, mate. Can't have 24-hour security around that place. I'd pour petrol around the fucker and set fire to it. I would, mate. Now, Salah. You piece of shit.
Oh dear.
Because it'd just be like, well, they want to replace it anyway. I just pour pepper around the whole lot. Boom, there you go. Set fire to it, and then like, what a story that would be. One of the biggest grounds in English football set on fire. Biggest club in the world, apparently. Stadium's on fire. Why is it on fire? Just spray a massive sign outside. Fucking sell now, you fucks. Sell up. Do you know what I mean? all over. Woodward, wouldn't it? You know, I don't want to make it a Glazer thing, but I listened to. I was a bit really, I went in hard with Ten Hag with you, but I think when you look back and you sit back, you've got John Murtock running the club, and someone told me the other day he come from Everton. And I thought he didn't. I honestly didn't know it, and I thought, oh my freaking god! So you've got someone who's meant to be running Everton. He's not bloody running it's like Liverpool. They went and got one of the best transfer gurus out there. Michael Edwards hasn't got a job. So why aren't United snapped him up? He was the brains behind these players getting into Liverpool. Look at Liverpool and Man City. They've got Terry Bergstein, whatever his name, Terexi Bergstein. He's the one behind the brains behind Man City working with Pep. Arsenal, Edu's doing really good things with Arteta. Well, we'll talk about that in a bit.
Yeah,
but I
do agree, and I didn't realise that either. And obviously, he said he was a sports scientist at Everton during the time of David Moyes. Before serving as the Premier League's head of elite performance.
Brilliant.
Well, when he was at Everton with Moyes, Everton were doing well.
Oh yeah, because I remember Everton used to buy players off Football Manager, so that's how we're now buying players. Then I know we love Football Manager, right? But look at these players. Oh, that makes sense. Then that must be why we linked with Ryan Gravenberch, because he was a great player for a freaking. And I saw this thing tonight that apparently Manchester United and Bayern Munich are now considering a swap for Gravenberch for McTominay, and Bayern want McTominay.
That doesn't say much about Gravenberch, then, does it?
See, exactly. But I'm going to be honest with you. I actually think McTominay's a decent freaking player, mate. And I think that'll be a big mistake for Man United to let him go. I do think that, because I think the positions he's played and the players he's played around him, But and also there's more to it, mate. We spent nearly half an hour talking about bloody Manchester United again. But you look at the whole fact that we're finding it hard to shift on these players. But you are talking that's going to take probably nearly 2 to 3 years to get rid of these players still, because you're trying to shift a player who's on stupid money. And Martial, everyone's going like, why is Martial not left? Because the geezer's on about 300 grand a week. That's the reason why. He's worth about 50 pence and he's on 300 grand a week. It shouldn't.
That's the reason why Maguire hasn't gone.
Fred. Why have you got a fair? Why did we get 8 million for Fred? Because he's on really freaking 150, 200 grand a week. Because Woodward was just like, oh, Man City want him. And that's what happens, isn't it? Like Pep said, we wanted Maguire too much. We wanted Sanchez too much. Anyway,
you've got to buy players at their value, haven't you? And that's where we went wrong when we started overspending. You don't buy players at their value. That is where it will cost you in the long run. But you are right.
I just sat there and I've given a bit of a piss baller. But then also you look at Højlund, turned down PSG, turned down other offers apparently to go to Manchester United, because he wanted to go to Manchester United because he supported Manchester United as a kid. He'll accept 50 grand a week to go and sign for Man United. He's not on a massive contract there. Brilliant. That's the player you want. Because I'll tell you now, right, and you mark my words, yeah, this same scenario, Fred, Maguire, we might be lucky that the Saudi League is doing what they're doing, because we'll have the same problem in a year or two with Casemiro. We'll have the same problem in a year or two with Rafa Varane, right? And this is why they've took the decisions with De Gea, 375 grand a week. 375 grand a week. That's just... Onana isn't touching the sides on that, mate. He's got to be on about 150, 200 grand a week, max. Do you know what I mean? And that's what I think that's changing. I think that might be... But I think that's coming from Ten Hag. I don't think that's... well, he might not get involved with that. You don't know, but it's a tough one, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? I don't think we're throwing money around with players' wages like we once were, which obviously is a good thing. So am I kind of contradicting myself with slagging Murtock and Arnold off? But then maybe the decisions have come. The amount of money they've saved on wages is unreal. I know that because obviously your Pogba, your De Gea, there's been a lot of players who have gone, but they're probably ultimately still paying them wages somehow. Well, Pogba was a free, wasn't he? And so was De Gea, so they can't be paying them. But yeah, I just want these players to come in who want to play for us for the actual wanting to play for us rather than throwing money at them. And like I said, it's going to take 2 or 3 years for that to continue and get rid of these players off the books, like your Freds, like your Maguires, and there was a list the other day, mate. That's unreal. The amount of players who have been in Manchester United for 8 years plus.
Mm.
And I was like, are you serious? Luke Shaw, Martial, McTominay. And you're like, what? This will just put the icing on the cake, right? And we're going to move on after this one.
Yeah, I've had enough of the United talk now.
Axel Tuanzebe, 26 years old, unemployed. How many appearances do you think he made for Manchester United?
I actually had a look at this the other day, I think. 8.
It's roughly about 50 appearances for Manchester United in his whole career and £16 million.
Wow. That's more appearances than I thought, but still, I mean, yeah, that's crazy.
For one decent performance in the Parc de France against Paris Saint-Germain and Mbappe. That's that's the stupid shit we were doing, right? Anyway,
well, that's why I'm glad Arsenal. We're just terminating contracts. We're just getting rid of them.
Yeah, I mean, like that's a good segue. To be fair with you, like I was going to talk. I did start thinking about little things yesterday, and you'll probably prove me wrong, but because obviously you look at Arsenal more than I do, so But obviously we'll look at that. Actually, no. On the Manchester United game, just quickly, definitely a penalty on Rashford. I don't care what people say. There's been a lot of stories saying today that's not a penalty. That is a penalty. When people are driving at someone so quick, there's knee contact. It doesn't take a lot to take someone down at high speed. It doesn't. And if you're going to question that, then have a look at the one last week against for Liverpool, because that was 10 times worse. He literally just saw his leg and just jumped over it near enough. Right. But if you're thinking that I'm like, got my United goggles on, I don't think Joe Worrell should have been sent off, because I think that was a disgusting decision. I think the volley, I think whoever was, he was easily coming around. Bruno Fernandes is not getting that ball. It's a yellow card. It's a free kick. He shouldn't have been sent off, in my opinion. So, yeah, it was a penalty, but they shouldn't have also been down to 10 men. So that's my opinion on that one. But let's move on to Arsenal. Actually, did you think it was a penalty?
Oh, I didn't see it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, it was a penalty. He's ran into the box, a couple of step overs, knocked the ball forward, and the guy's just coming around and he's clipped him with his knee. And it's literally like a little, it's nothing massive, but you can clearly see he's tripped him up, and you're like, well,
yeah, I mean, by the way you described it, is just, yeah, it looks like minimal contact. But yeah, when you're running at speed in the box, you see it time and time again. It doesn't look like a lot of contact, but it doesn't need to be enough. For it to go down.
Yeah, but moving on to Arsenal, you've probably watched this game in detail. 2-2, very poor mistake from Saka for the pass back. But if Andres Pereira meant to put it over there, then I'm a freaking blind man, because he's meant to chip the keeper, and that's gone disastrously wrong.
It was such a weird. It was weird. I mean, it completely bamboozled Ramsdale, didn't it?
Well, because Ramsdale was spot on. His dive was for a lob.
Yeah,
it's gone over here. So yeah. Go on,
yeah. I don't know. It's just we're allowing those silly mistakes in still. Like, this is what I think maybe I can't remember if I said it. I think it was on the first one. Yeah. Our first episode for the season, I was saying this because I was like, that second half against Forest, allow mistakes to creep in, allow Forest to get back into the game. And it's just like, this is what we were doing towards the end of last season as well, making a mistake very, very early on, starting the game from behind, making it harder for ourselves. It's like, just come on, lads. And that's what I'm not gonna be too like overreactionary to it. because, as I said, it's only a few games into the season, but it's not. It is worrying that we are still doing those sorts of things that were creeping in towards the end of last year. Because ultimately, you can't do that. If we want to go and win the league, we can't. We need to stop doing things like that. And perhaps we were quite lucky, really, to get 6 points from the first two games. We didn't get a chance to talk about the game, the Crystal Palace game last week, and the Tomiyasu card. I mean, for me, that sending off was complete and utter bullshit. Complete and utter bullshit.
You know what made me laugh?
He's tickled his back. He's tickled his back.
But the problem is, right, and this is we'll cover it more again. But the thing what made me laugh is they run it on Sky. They run it at the end of the game. The player who initially went to take the throw in had the ball for 15 seconds, and then Tomiyasu had the ball and had it for 8 seconds.
Yeah. So I'm not going to complain about that one though.
But what I'm saying is both cards were bullshit. Because if you're going to book Tomiyasu, no, you booked the player before, didn't you? Because he's the one who's wasted the time.
Well, yes and no. It's just the whole team doing it. He's warned the whole team earlier on. If the whole team's going to do it, maybe it's not Tomiyasu's fault, but that's just how it is. I'm not really concerned about that. That's just a bit unfortunate. The second one for me, that's not a second yellow, especially when they said about the RU one when he's literally like grappling him, and he was on a yellow card himself. Like, I mean, completely and utterly ridiculous. But no, going back to the Fulham game, it's just, especially considering we fought back. So I thought, right, we showed character, we have got back into the game. Mistakes do happen, we'll take the victory. But 10 men, they get down to 10 men and then you concede. And the way in which that goal, that equaliser went in from Fulham, it's just not good enough defending. A corner that late on when you're trying to like hold on to the win, that is too easy. You cannot be allowing him to do that. And for me, it's just not good enough. And again, I'd say I'm pretty sure Arteta would have gone mental at him, and he wouldn't have liked it one bit. But if we want to win the league, we can't be doing things like that. As I say, I'm not going to overreact right now because it's incredibly early on. But it's a slight concern that we're still doing those things that got us in trouble at the end of last year.
Yeah, I mean, I watched it and I was watching the Arsenal Man United game legally. Obviously, a 3:00 kickoff. I was watching that legally, so I didn't really want to watch the scores, because I was a little bit delayed. So I was like, oh, I wonder what Arsenal did. And then someone just messaged me in the group chat 2-2, and I'm like, yes. I was like, they got to be talking about Arsenal. But I just thought they're gonna smash one in. Do you know what I mean? I just thought Arsenal would just like they did last year, nick the win. But this is partly, and I'm not just saying it because it's that one result, but this is partly the reason why I said what I did say about Arsenal. That I think people might jump the gun a little bit with them saying that they need to push on and try and like probably potentially win the title this season. Just still think it was early on in the time of like, I just think both Manchester United and Manchester United and Arsenal were just so lucky that teams like Chelsea and Liverpool were so bad last year, and Spurs, because
I don't agree with that.
No, okay, that's because football's a game of opinions, right? But I just think that, there's still a lot going on at Arsenal. And I was looking again and I thought some of the players they're buying as well, like they are changing the culture 100%. I'm not going to criticize a Rice or a Havertz because you can't. It's far too early. But you look at players like Trossard. Comes into the squad. Why is not I would have played Nketiah, against Fulham. Why is Trossard coming into the side? I don't think he's really lit it up since he's been at Arsenal. You look at I thought just certain little things. I'm just like, who's that? There was another player I thought I think they started him yesterday and took him off, and I just questioned that one. I thought, what's going on there? Do you know what I mean? I just thought. Let me just get that up. Because it hit me straight away, the player who they took off. And I was like, oh, there's two players there. And I was like, started to look at it and think, well, no, sorry.
Vieira or
no, yes. Vieira, I quit, and then also I did think they took Havertz off as well, but Vieira's one of them as well. Trossard, Vieira. Like, why is he playing Partey at right back still when Ben White performed really well last year there, and he's taking Gabriella there with Saliba when they had such a good partnership last year and stuff like that. I just think,
well, I can't give you answers though, and that's just purely because I'm obviously way more into Arsenal than you. Well, so firstly, I don't think Trossard's been bad at all. I think every time he has played, he's played really well. And I think, just sort of rotating the team and using different options and, using a different player, which perhaps at home, Arteta preferred to use somebody like Trossard who offers different qualities to Nketiah. I think Trossard maybe perhaps is a little bit more creative. He'll drop into the holes. He'll sort of create things, whereas Nketiah is a bit more of your typical number 9. But Nketiah came on at halftime anyway and played well. He had a good game. So yeah, he did. But maybe he realised himself, okay, it hasn't worked out how I wanted to. He changes at halftime. That happens. But other than that, I think Trossard's been good every time he's played for Arsenal. He's done well. He's got assists. He's made things happen. So I'm not going to grumble at that. So yeah, and then the players you said. So what was it? The main one was Vieira, I think, wasn't it? So Vieira, actually, to be fair, Vieira has been, he disappointed last year. I don't think he didn't really live up to how he can play at all. But he was incredible. He was very, very good. He's probably our best player against Fulham. He changed that game. Pretty sure he got both of the assists. He had a very good strike towards the end of the game, which Leno tipped over. And actually, sometimes it does take a while for players to settle in. This is why I'm not judging a player off one season. Yeah, fair enough. He had a poor season, but you keep him on, you play him. Can he live up to the challenge? He's come on. He's now given Arteta something to think about because he's more creative than Havertz in there. So Havertz might get dropped for the next game, and that's why you have this squad of players with depth. And for me, Vieira was very impressive in that game. And, there's no reason why he might not go on and be the player that we bought. He's got some time to get used to the system, work out, play with Arteta, things like that. So, okay, it's only one game. It's only a little cameo performance, but he was very good. So hopefully there's more to come from him. And then, I guess, addressing the Partey thing at right back, and we did trial that before, because I think what Arteta has realised is that when Zinchenko isn't able to play at left back, it completely changes the game because we don't have another player of his ability and style of play where he's going to invert and going to move into that midfield and dictate that sort of the play and how things are going forward. Maybe that's why we got signed Timber to do that a bit more. But again, he was sort of a bit more, he wasn't as effective as what you would say Zinchenko does. So I think that's why he's now trying to, and it clearly didn't work when Zinchenko wasn't in that role. So I think that's why we've now changed that, and why Gabriel hasn't been starting, and why Thomas Partey has been there. And that does slightly change the dynamic. And whether that's worked or not, you could say no. But again, it's still very early days, still time, still need to sort of get things working again. And yes, I probably would agree. Ben White is probably better as more of the right back who's going to sort of push on and sort of help and support further up the pitch. How he linked up with Odegaard and Saka last year was impressive. And, maybe a bit more of a dominating defender in there next to Saliba with Gabriel could work out better. But, this is what happens. You have to adjust and you have to adapt when players aren't there and when certain players aren't playing. So I think that's what he's trying to do. Zinchenko has not really been there at the start of this season. So he's thought, right, Thomas Partey has to go there and we have to try something else. Okay, and it wasn't necessarily worked completely, but that is the reason as for why that's happened. And I think once Zinchenko is fit and he is playing sort of all the time, you probably will see that again. You'll see Zinchenko move into that midfield role, and then you're going to probably get him next to Partey, and then you'll have Gabriel, Saliba, and White as you would have last year.
So on that, just quickly, you mentioned that. I was just looking at, because obviously I didn't watch the game properly. So you've got they did actually change Zinchenko actually come on for Partey, and that's why it pricked my ears up when you said that. So am I right in saying that looking at that team, what they've got, they've obviously put K-War must have gone centre back with Saliba, and then Ben White must have reverted to his old original position as a right back, and then they put Zinchenko left back. Or did you pay that much attention to it?
But to be honest, like though when Zinchenko came on, I think we pretty much had like possession most of the time. So like he would have just been in midfield, like pretty much.
Yeah, but because you said that, obviously they've switched the side of the inverted fullback. Yeah.
To be fair, I can't like 100% remember exactly where Partey ended up playing once Zinchenko came on, but I think that
they took him off.
Well, there you go. Yeah. There you go. Then. So that is essentially what's going to happen. You know, and I you know, once Zinchenko's now come on, he might even start against United. He had a good game against United at home last season. So you know, I reckon you probably will see that. I reckon you'll see that back four of Zinchenko, Gabriel, Saliba, and Ben White against United, and then you might even see Partey in there, Rice, Odegaard, and it would work in a very, very similar fashion. But that's how it's such a minor change, but it can massively impact the whole play and the build-up play. Just ever so slight minor thing. So
this might be just the worst possible result for United and performance. You might go back to what you know last year. Like Arteta might just go right. I need to go.
Well, it's not that. It's just Zinchenko's now going to be fit again. Zinchenko's now going to be fit, so you know I'd probably see that happen.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, I didn't watch the game and that, but I have seen the goals and stuff. Obviously, and Nketiah with a great goal. To be fair with you, I thought it was miles offside when I first saw it, but no, it was a lovely finish from Nketiah. Obviously, Saka with a penalty, and we didn't really mention the Palace game as well, but that was a bit of a weird one. He was playing, wasn't he, when Odegaard scored the penalty? What was that all about?
Don't really know. I don't think anyone knows. Arteta himself said, "I don't know. I leave it to the players." Don't know. Odegaard just fancied it that week, and then this time Saka fancied it. I really don't know. I mean, unless you hear from the players themselves.
Brilliant, because I took Odegaard out that week and put someone else in the team, and the prick scored a penalty. Nice one. Cheers, mate. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I need all the help I can get in the old fantasy. More about that in the future. But obviously, you know, disappointing for Arsenal, you know, like 2-1 up against Fulham at home with 10 men, you'd expect them to see out the game. And you know, and potentially add another one onto that and make it a nice, could probably even get a couple towards the end, you know what I mean, with Fulham pushing on to get something out of it.
It's a shame and it's annoying, but we're 3 games into the season, we still haven't lost. And we're going to absolutely smash United next week, so it's all fine.
Yeah, you are. It's going to be embarrassing. So I can see it, mate. I'm just not looking forward to it at all. I think some of the things you probably don't even realise, Casemiro looked like he got injured towards the end of the game yesterday as well. So yeah, looks could be rocking up.
Maguire at DM or something.
Who knows? No, we'll probably try and get, I don't know, fucking Hullet to play for him or something. But yeah. So yeah, obviously, you know, it's not the great result you wanted really, but ultimately it could be one of them ones where it turns into one of them things for Arsenal that turns out to be good in the fact that they realise something's not going to work, like the party thing. So that's why he's brought on Zinchenko as soon as he possibly could. So it could actually work out well for you. I mean, just touching on it, you mentioned it as well. Obviously, Jaren Timber's now out for 9 months, is it? Potentially with a cruciate knee ligament, isn't it? An ACL. Yeah. I know players get over that as well quickly now, but you know,
not good.
Yeah. We could see Højlund next week as well against Arsenal. You know,
that could change things.
Yeah, that could do, but I don't hold much hope at the minute. We'll see. You know, at least we've got the international break coming up as well. So, but yeah, you know, 2-2. Let's move on from that one. If you're good for that.
Yeah, not got too much to say, have we? Else apart from that.
Yeah, United obviously had to run on because there's just a shower of shit. But. Well, let's. I'll tell you what. Let's quickly have a look at the Liverpool game today because, you know, it's probably well known on this podcast we aren't the best fans of Liverpool. But I will actually say this. You know, that's one of them results today. Jurgen Klopp has earned his soul. You know, he has proper done a number. You know, he's proper like there. I thought they'd be down to 9 men within like freaking half an hour because obviously, and this is probably where we were going to talk about the refereeing decisions. So, we can talk a little bit about it more after this game because, Trent's got fouled. That's a foul on Trent in the first place. So he doesn't get a foul, but then he literally just gives the ball a little bit of a push because he's disagreed with the decision and he gets booked. And then 2 seconds later, and they said it on Sky, and I agreed. If hit that tackle he does on Anthony Gordon is in the second half, that's a second yellow and he's off. But he's built a rod for his own back because he's booked him for something which he potentially should not have booked him for and wouldn't have booked him for last season. Right? So, and we'll talk about the refereeing decisions later on. And then you get the foul from Van Dijk, which I cannot believe for the life of me that Jamie Carragher's gone and said, yeah, that's not a red. I'm like, what on earth is he smoking? Because I want some of that. That was unreal. He's just come across, and it's like he's gone for a clearance, missed the ball, and took the player. And
I'm like, the Van Dijk one's red all day long.
And Carragher's like, yeah, no, that's not a clear and obvious goal scoring opportunity. I'm like, how's that not a clear? And like Carragher's, he hasn't touched the ball yet, and I'm like, give over. What's his touch going to take him? I know
he's about to run through on goal. He's about to run through on goal, and that's a goal scoring opportunity. 100%. It's a red card. It's a clumsy challenge from Van Dijk. Simple as that. You can't argue with it.
Yeah, and but I just thought, and then obviously, Newcastle. Did Eddie Howe cost them the game? I mean, taking off a player's someone with the ability of Tonali and bringing on Sean Longstaff with 25 minutes to go, you're kind of like, well, come on, mate. You're only 1-0 up, and Liverpool are still dangerous. The subs they're making, like Jota and Harvey Elliott, and they've got Nunez is coming on, and players like this, with bags of ability and pace. You kind of still need to get get the result here. 1-0's dangerous. 2-0, you might kill it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But some of the decisions he decided to do was a bit strange. Don't get me wrong. Liverpool got lucky with the touch from Sven Botman, which flicked his heel, hit his ass, and then fell into Nunez's pass. But I tell you, into Nunez's path. But I tell you now, them two finishes from Darwin Nunez, from all the pelters he had from last year. Them finishers were freaking world class, man. They were like that. The first one touch, bang. The second one was like, I think it was one touch, bang, bottom corner. I was like, that is some world class finishing. I was like, and look at Jurgen. We're both not the biggest fans of Jurgen Klopp and Liverpool, are we? But what would you have thought if that was? I know what I was thinking. If that was Man United down to 10 men with an hour to play at St James's Park with 10 men, United 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Do you know what I mean?
I thought Liverpool were going to fall apart, but no,
I did.
You have got to give credit to them. That's very, very difficult. The way in which the game was. Newcastle, for the most part, never really looked too much in trouble. And then all of a sudden, Nunez, bang. Yeah, and as you quite rightly said, incredible, just fantastic finishing. And I think, Neville said it himself on commentary. Last season he was snatching at them. He wasn't putting them away. And now this year he's come on and he's done it, twice. Great win for Liverpool. You've got to give credit to him. And, I think... that they could, they've got so much attacking talent there, which is going to happen. If Nunez gets on form and starts, earning that fee that they paid for him, that could be huge. And I think, that's going to be a real sort of lifter. There was still sort of concerns about Liverpool, isn't there? It's not really been quite too happy in the sort of Liverpool camp, but a win like that could really sort of help galvanise the team and give them back that sort of self-confidence, which I think they have been lacking, and perhaps even Klopp himself has been lacking. I think that win and sort of the fight, especially with Van Dijk, it's obviously not just, it's a red card for Van Dijk and they're down to 10 men, but losing Van Dijk as well, as you said, if you would have thought, even if it was Matip who got sent off and they were down to 10, you'd think Liverpool are going to struggle here. But the fact that it was Van Dijk as well, which made it even
Yeah.
worse. So that's huge. That is huge.
Yeah, like we said, there were some really good substitutes from Liverpool. Obviously, Darwin Núñez getting two, winning the game for them. Credit again. Obviously, they didn't have a lot of choice in the situation because obviously Van Dijk being sent off, and then I think Joe Gomez probably would have been the obvious replacement for Trent to come off because obviously he's on the booking as well. And the next tackle Trent does, he's off, right? That's the thing. So he obviously done really well to obviously stay on the pitch for 85 minutes, wasn't it? But yeah, it's just one of them things. I think probably a lot of Liverpool fans out there, Matt Brickley, friend of the show, he's obviously probably sitting there thinking, bloody hell, I might as well turn this off and go down the pub 1-0 down to 10 men. Do you know what I mean? And I'm telling you now, Man United would lose that 6, 7, 8. Do you know what I mean? They would have just caved in. And so that's unbelievable. And it does show that they've got the spirit there. But I still think I still think Liverpool should, or they need to go out and get another midfielder. I think that's a crucial part of the team where they need to obviously get something. But and maybe a defender. I'm not too sure on that. But they definitely need another midfielder, another six in there, don't they? Because they are still potentially an injury away from capitulating in midfield.
Yeah,
but
sure.
I don't think you can. I don't think there's a lot more you can say about just how good that was today from Liverpool. I hate to say it, but
got to give credit where it's due.
Oh my god! And imagine being in that away end if that was your game, if that was your team. I reckon that was absolute carnage. Do you know what I mean? I reckon it was. I reckon you'd be like if there weren't a couple of people thrown off the top of that freaking ground. Do you know what I mean? Like probably people particularly oh shit, mate, grab my legs, I'm falling over. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm going over the side. It was. That would. I think that would have been that. I wouldn't say I would have loved to have been in that away end because obviously it's full of Scousers. But if that was my team and we'd just done that, that would have been absolutely freaking insane, wouldn't it? That would have been something else. But
for sure.
No, what we'll end it on there with Liverpool because obviously, fantastic win. Great two finishes from Darwin Núñez. And, I just think Newcastle will learn. That's the thing. They are going to learn from this. Eddie Howe will learn from that today. He knew he probably ultimately cost Newcastle the game because Tonali, again, another superb from him, superb performance from him today. Anthony Gordon running at the defence all day long. He had him on toast and he's took them off. I know you want to rotate your side, but why is he doing that? Isaac, these players, when you've got someone like a Trent on a yellow card and his next bad foul is off, and Anthony Gordon's had him on toast all day, and he was brilliant today before he got taken off. Why change that? I know you want to give players you don't just change players for the sake of it. Like I was saying earlier about United, you need to change them because they've had a bad performance, but you can't say Anthony Gordon was bad today. You can't say Isaac was bad today. You can't say Tony was bad. Tonali was bad today. So why are you taking them off?
Yeah, and I think maybe that's where Hal's thinking ahead, and he's thinking, right, we're 1-0 up. They're down to 10. They're not really getting into it. Let's rotate the team, but you got to focus on the task at hand and see the win out.
But look what they're bringing on, though. They're not bringing on freaking old retired players. They're bringing on young players as spring chickens with a point to prove. It's not like they've got bags of ability coming on the pitch. What are Liverpool going to do? I sat there and thought they've just talked this up. I was watching it and it was like they come up with the stats of 60 minutes into the game, and it said second half chances, and it was like Liverpool had no touches in the opponent's box, no shots on goal, nothing. And they were like, this is what you expect from Liverpool. And I think Gary Neville got a spot on. He's like, they're just going to sit back. They're just going to let Newcastle come at them because they're not creating nothing in behind now. They're just going to sit back and they're just going to bide their time and hit them when they can and just hope the chances fall. And they did. Exactly. And
it's always going to happen, isn't it? When you've got that attacking ability, when you've got, as you quite rightly said, Jota and Diaz and Saka, Salah and Gakpo, Núñez, when you've got all that quality of players, you've always got to be careful of Liverpool because it's the speed on the counter and everything like that.
Yeah, and I just think he cost him the game yesterday. I think Howe's decisions were absolutely shocking. To be fair with you, I think he'll learn though from that. I really do. But anyway, let's start cracking through these games because we're nearly an hour into the podcast. So unfortunately, Manchester United's taken over the podcast again. But yeah, anyway, look, we started off on Friday night, 3-0 win for Luton, for Chelsea versus Luton. I think it's expected Luton aren't going to stay up, but potentially with results judging at Stamford Bridge or Old Trafford, etc., etc. Are they?
There was a stat going round actually. I think it was since 1992 when the Premier League was introduced, that Chelsea have spent 3 billion and Luton have spent 300 million. So that just says it all, really.
Yeah. I will say this though. Absolutely, it looks like Pochettino has got a little win in his pocket there through Sterling. I think obviously he got 2 goals against Luton, but he was very, very good against West Ham. Looked like his old self, running at players direct. And if it wasn't for the penalty missed against West Ham when I think they were 1-0 up at the time. Or no, it's 1-1. They could potentially gone back into the lead and won the game, but that's all just ifs, buts, and maybes. But Chelsea were very good against West Ham in the first half, and it fell apart in the second half. But yeah, I think Raheem Sterling was absolutely brilliant in that game, and that's carried on to this game as well. A couple of goals and a goal from Jackson as well. Nicholas Jackson.
Yeah.
His first since joining from Villarreal. So, and I think there's not really you can say much about Luton this year, isn't it? I think I will make that judgment. I think they will be very lucky not to come away from the Premier League with the fewest points ever recorded.
What is it? Is it Derby still with the record? How many was it?
Yeah.
13 was it?
Yeah, something stupid, isn't it? You can check that. You Google that while we're on. But yeah, 3-0. It's easy for Chelsea, wasn't it? Nice, easy win for them, really. But yeah, obviously, was looking at the game from the first game of the weekend was on Saturday. Sorry, Spurs another 2-0 win. Ange Postecoglou. Oh, this is going to be brilliant saying this name all season, isn't it? He's unbeaten start. James Maddison with a great goal for Spurs and starting his fantastic, form for Spurs, carrying on really. And Kulusevski finishing 2-0 finishing off for 2-0 for him.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, I did just check. It is Derby, 11 points, not 13. But no, Tottenham, to be fair, they've made a very solid start. I think the way that the control and possession in games now, they're getting, allowing the likes of Maddison to prosper by, allowing the team itself to have more of the ball. And I think I saw this. I can't remember. I saw it might have been on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. And somebody said, perhaps Tottenham are better without him because they're not relying on him. There's always that thing, sort of relying on Kane and other players, perhaps subconsciously thinking it's fine. Harry Kane will get the goal. Oh, just focusing all on Kane. Whereas without him now, that could sort of help free it up and open it up. And obviously, you're seeing. Maddison doing so well. So, it'd be interesting to see. I think, again, you might just see it as a new manager. You get that new manager bounce still, even like in the summer. There might be a few teams who eventually work out Postecoglou and Tottenham and his style of play out. But, you've got to, fair play to them. They've looked very solid in these first few games.
Look more of a team than Manchester United. Moving on quickly, because you don't want to talk about Spurs all day. But yeah, I actually no, we won't move on quickly. I will agree with that. Like that whole emphasis around Harry Kane has gone, and I think we might have said it that Tottenham might reap the benefits of Harry Kane going. I think we did actually. I think we said we questioned Levy, didn't we? And said why is he's the one to blame for this?
Yeah,
in Spurs, and we said that potentially you could move on from it, and the circus of Harry Kane just makes you galvanise the squad, doesn't it? It makes them better. But we'll look at the Brentford game next. Obviously, a brilliant first ever goal for Brentford from Shard. Is it Kevin Shard? Absolutely lovely goal. Cuts in from the left, smashed at top bin, top right. Lovely goal from him. Some interesting comments coming out from Ivan Toney this week. I don't know if you saw them. saying about how he used to support Liverpool growing up as a kid, but admired Arsenal's style of play. And I think the interviewer then turned around and said, "Oh, well, what about Manchester United?" And he was like, "Well, yeah, Manchester United as well. They're a great side. Watching them growing up." And then I think somebody even threw in Chelsea as well. So basically, Tony's going to go to Chelsea, Arsenal, or Liverpool, or Manchester United.
He wants to. He wants to
Yeah,
move.
yeah, that's what he wants.
That big boy
And
move, doesn't he?
I'll take him at United all day long.
Højlund and Tony would be very good.
Yeah. And also, I could just lay some bets on, can't I? Like Ivan Tony to be first booked. Sorted. Winner, chicken dinner. And then obviously you've got Joachim Anderson. I don't know if you saw his goal. He went in for a tackle, scored. Brilliant.
That's just a classic Crystal Palace goal, isn't it? Like, if they're going to score, it would be like that.
Well, I think he was running into the box, and I think the keeper come out and the defender went in for a tackle. So he just collided with them all. He slid in for the tackle and it's gone for the keeper's legs. And I'm like, brilliant. I don't know. It's worth seeing it. Jason Cundy's goal I can't remember if he was playing for Ipswich or Spurs, but it was at Portman Road. I think he was playing for Spurs. They've gone in for a tackle on the halfway line, and he's just like, bang! It was like a proper, like, old school 50-50. He's got a crash, and it's literally just gone off Cundy and just gone straight in the top corner. That's an absolute drama. He's fucking serious. But yeah, like, it's just a tackle and they scored. But yeah, 1-1, and Crystal Palace, I think a special mention to them, and obviously really good to see them tying up Michael Olise to a new deal. And now obviously Ebre Etienne being linked with a move to Man City as well this week. And he's obviously now going to get himself a new deal. So hats off to them for keeping them two players, which they've probably now got release clauses in them. But instead of getting a 30-40 million pound fee for them both, they're probably now 60-70 million, isn't he? So, securing their future realistically for the club, not just, keeping the players. So, great goal for Kevin Shard. That's what I would say from that game. Do we hold much hope for Everton?
Oh,
Jesus,
that's not good, is it? I thought at home to Wolves, I thought it'd be a close game, not many goals, but surely they'll just about edge it, and they didn't.
That's it.
Not good, is it?
They had some decent chances. I think they might have had a couple of goals disallowed as well. But they had some decent chances. I mean, 15 shots, 7 on target to Wolves.
Because they've got no striker. They've got no striker. Like, Calvert-Lewin's been injured the whole time for the past 2 or 3 years now. Yeah. When Everton were decent, or the only time they've ever looked all right, is when Calvert-Lewin's been playing. And I'm pretty sure they're now gone out and they've either agreeing the fee or whatever for Beto from Udinese.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
So if they get him in, then that might help things. I think he's done quite well in Serie A for Udinese, to be fair. But yeah, they've got no striker. I think I even previewed the game actually, and I was thinking, and it's there's a little section where I go key players, and obviously, typically you'd go for a top goal scorer, or your most creative player. And I looked at the team, and I was like, there's not even one. There's not one player who I even think is going to get a goal or who's going to create a goal or anything. It's just such a lackluster team that there's no inspiration there. It's just where's the creativity? Where's the flair? Where's the panache in the team? Like,
the only player who I think has got a little bit about him would be Dan Juma. I think he's got a little bit about him, but it's not a hell of a lot, And I don't know enough about this Yosif Shementi who they've signed, and I don't know a lot about Beto. That's probably your area, really, Beto. But yeah, it's just you're right. But we did say I just think that they're lucky that there are 3 teams who are worse than them. And that's actually up for debate now because I think Wolves have now got more points than them, and have they even scored a goal?
Everton,
have they even scored?
I don't think so. Have they? No, they haven't. They lost 1-0 at home to Fulham, then they lost 4-0 away to Villa, and then they lost 1-0 at home to Wolves. So I mean, there's nothing going forward. Nothing. And we said this last year. And
speaking of which, we'll just go back to it. Did you see the 4th goal for Everton against Villa? The throw-in
for
from Ashley Young.
For Villa against Everton.
Yeah,
No, I don't think I did
literally,
actually.
literally, Ashley Young. I swear the geezer, he must have forgot he was playing for frickin' Villa, Everton. He literally launched it back to like he launched it straight over the top of Michael Keane. Is it Michael Keane, the centre half? Straight over the top of his head. It wasn't even like just past him. Lobbed it over the top and put Watkins clean through or whoever it was. I was like, he has not meant that. There's no way he's meant that. But yeah, that's a shocking result for me. And Everton rock bottom, no points, no goals. It doesn't look good for them. And unfortunately, I will say this, and I don't think he's got a leg to stand on. That'll probably be one of the first sackers of the season, Dyche.
Yeah,
because of that. You know,
two home games against Fulham and Wolves. You lost 1-0, hadn't scored yet. It's not good, as we said. You accept the Villa result, fair enough. It happens. Villa are a good team, but not to even get a point from either of those home games.
I know
that's bad.
Yeah. You've got to be worried, ain't you? And another team, we'll follow on to this. A team who are just so strange, and I think the Brighton. Like they done it last year. Absolutely fantastic results. Go and get thumped 4-1 against Everton.
It's classic Brighton.
And then look at that 3-1 against West Ham.
But that's how they're set up. Like this is De Zerbi. Like De Zerbi will go out and get these big results, and he'll go out and get these wins against your top teams. And yes, his teams will play wonderful attack on football, and they'll create chances, and they'll look dangerous, and they'll look threatening. But it's almost at times there's literally no concern for what's going on at the other end of the field. Like you have. I think it was a David Moyes special, really. I think there was 3 goals and they had like 19% possession. And I know they were sort of pushing to get back into the game and things like that. But that is classic De Zerbi. They're not solid enough at the back at times. You cannot be conceding that many goals. It's like you're allowing that to happen. You need to be solid at the back at times to allow the rest of the team to prosper, and that is always going to be Brighton's issue. And yes, they do play great football. Yes, their attacking play is wonderful, but they are always going to have those results.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a very astute signing from David Moyes to sign James Ward-Prowse. I think he wouldn't look at a place in a team like Manchester United. Very, very shocked they didn't go in for him or like as Tottenham or something like that. But yeah, I would have.
Great stuff.
I would have snapped the hands off. I really would have done 30 million, and that's to me, Southampton's captain. And I know people say a lot about Southampton, but sometimes you've got to go and get these players, the best players from the weaker sides. Why not?
I think Ward-Prowse's quality, and there was no doubt that he was going to. I don't think there's much doubt at all that he'd go to West Ham and do really well. Set pieces or not, it's not just set pieces, is it? Just. He's over the last few years, he's just really had this sort of eye for goal, and he's such an influential player. I really like him. Yeah, great sign. And I thought West Ham may struggle a little bit at the start whilst they sort of got settled, but they've looked pretty good, to be fair. So fair enough. West Ham could look quite well and have a good season.
Yeah, I think we a bit of a concern. We both said that they'll probably struggle at the start of the season because they've got to get used to a lot of changes going on, isn't there? Rice going, bringing the players in from that and trying to improve. But they seem to have unbeaten start to the season. Very, very good win against Chelsea. Chelsea have never won at the London Stadium, by the way. But for a great win against Chelsea last week, 3-1. And then obviously this 3-1 victory. And you'll have to forgive me. Oh, the first game of the season was 1-1 against Bournemouth. Yeah. So yeah, like a really good start from
really,
West. Yeah, it's great. We've obviously covered the Newcastle game from today or Sunday now, as it would be. But Villa winning 3-1 at Burnley. Yeah, I mean, I think again it's one of them things where okay, it's not away from home, but Burnley aren't going to be judged on results against Villa. Is that they're going to be judged on the results against like Sheffield United and Luton's and stuff like that, aren't they? This isn't going to be the games that.
They play 2 games against City and Villa, and we've said how good Villa are under Emery and stuff. And I don't know. The only thing I think for me is that they've conceded 6 goals in 2 games, and I know that they're against 2 teams who are very good going forward. But I think this is what you're going to see. I think you probably will see Burnley take a couple of thumpings because Company wants to get on the ball and play out from the back. They had 57% possession against Villa. And when you don't have the same quality, they are going to get caught, especially you got the likes of Watkins and Diaby, etc. running out here. But that's the only thing. I think maybe perhaps Company may have to just tighten up a little bit at the back at times, but we've only had 2 games, so it's hard to judge them at the minute.
It's also one of them things, isn't it, with Burnley? I mean, we did kind of like say they would be okay, but then is it going to be a case of like where they're too good for the Division 1 or the Championship playing that style of play, a bit like Norwich were under Farke, when you play some fantastic football in that league and they got that brilliant win against Man City in the first season. And then because you're a bit naive and you don't change your style of play and you're going to stick to that style of play constantly, that's going to catch you out, and they got caught out several times today with that. So, yeah, and obviously, yeah, you can't really judge them on the Man City one. Just on that, I do think it's a little bit disgusting in the Premier League to allow Luton to cancel games. Like, don't cancel them, just reverse them. Just reverse that fixture. That fixture should have been played at Burnley last week. They shouldn't have allowed them to cancel that game. There's no way. That's just silly. Like, the Premier League shouldn't be allowed and stuff like that. They rejected Liverpool's application to have their game moved. The first couple of games moved. What's the difference? Reverse the fixtures. But yeah, so moving on to the final game of them the weekend. Then there isn't a game Monday night, I hope.
No,
we've got the game Monday night. But yeah, obviously the train rolls on, doesn't it? Manchester City 2, Sheffield United 1. Haaland misses a penalty, and they still managed to win the game. An absolute wonder goal from Rodri to win the game for him. It was a brilliant strike. But Haaland missed that penalty. And then he's got the, fantastic play from Jack Grealish, holding the ball down the right-hand side, left-hand side, constantly, and then just shifting it out. Not lovely little dink back to Haaland for a little nod down for 1-0. And yeah, bad mistake from Kyle Walker for the Sheffield United equaliser. But yeah, they've ended up winning that game, and Pep Guardiola is not even there, is he?
I wouldn't say it was a convincing performance by City, though. I just had a quick look, and their XG was nearly 4. But I think based on the chance, the 2 goals, sort of where they were on the pitch, and the penalty, and obviously you are going to expect it. But I don't think it was necessarily as if City were creating like. It wasn't as if they were like carving Sheffield United open as such. I know Fulham again made a couple of good saves, but do you know what I mean? I think Sheffield United did enough to show that they might have a chance potentially staying up, because they've got to take it. Again, you look at the stats and what happened, but you always expect that. So I think maybe on another day it could have been more, but it wasn't convincing as such. It wasn't as if they were creating quality chance after chance as you would have expected, sort of thing. And I think that you are not going to get that with Man City. I don't think that Man City are going to be as dominating as sort of as we saw towards the end of last season. They were sort of just dominating teams and sort of rolling them over. I don't know if you are going to get that this year.
Yeah, but this is true Man City, though, and the worrying concern is usually they start the season with a couple of draws and you think, oh, this isn't too sharp. And then all of a sudden they get to like Christmas time and they start like turning it on and just going from January to the end of the season unbeaten or something stupid like that. But they've actually not been playing brilliantly. They just got a 1-0 win against Newcastle. They've beaten Sheffield United 2-1 away. And like that idiotic commentator said against Palace, Arsenal versus Palace, this is the type of results which brings you titles. And I'm like, mate, it's the second week of the season. Just, you're embarrassing yourself. And then, yeah, and they're still winning games. That's the main concern for me. And, the one thing I hate is that they're just getting it right now, isn't they? They've lost De Bruyne's out. Oh, I'm just going to get Nunez from Wolves. Probably the last best player Wolves have got. We're just going to get him. Oh yeah, yeah, we've lost Mahrez. Jeremy Doku. Yeah, we'll just get him.
Yeah.
and what they're going to do? Like, they've just lost Laporte. They haven't done nothing yet. What are they going to do? They're probably going to sign that Todibo, who Manchester United have been linked with from France, and then or something stupid like that. It's just they're just. I hate it. They're a machine.
Yeah, it is a shame. It is a shame. I just hope that we got a good title race this year, and we do get another winner, and there is competitive. But yeah, it might not be likely. But I mean, to be fair, I would say about Rodri. I think he's turning into like a clutch player right now. Goal in the game. Obviously in the Champions League final, he scored that banger against Bayern. Goal against Burnley, and now digging him out with another good striker today. He's sort of turned into that player, that holding midfielder of that quality. Now he's adding goals to his game. Great.
Yeah, it's just what we need, isn't it? And all done without Pep Guardiola there again today. It's just, just come on. Like, yeah, it's just embarrassing, really, and it's just. And the thing is, just like you can just see it turn into something like the Bundesliga. I predicted at the beginning of the season, Man City walked that league. I still stand by that. Man City will walk that league. De Bruyne is injured. He's going to be lost without him. They're just going to go and sign everyone else. Phil Foden's now playing every game. Jesus Christ. You know what I mean? Just there's nothing. The only thing I tell you what, I saw this the other day, and I was going to ask you about this, so I quickly will. Is Haaland just a bully boy?
What do you mean?
I saw this, but he doesn't score a lot of goals away from home, does he?
Oh, you mean just scoring against the shit teams at home?
No. Well, yeah, because they beat He scored a hat-trick against Man United at home, but you know what I mean. Like he does.
Well, there you go then. Yeah, here he is.
No, but he just. So we kind of. I'm not saying Haaland's rubbish because there is that broken meme of that geezer who absolutely just destroyed himself, didn't he? Yeah. By saying it's just disrespectful to the Premier League. But you look at someone like, I think I mentioned this, Harry Kane scoring 30 goals in was it something like 30 different games last year?
Yeah, scoring. Yeah, I know what you're saying. He does sort of get like 2 or 3 here, and it might be at home to I don't know, Everton or something, and then he doesn't score for 3 or 4 games. And yeah, well, I did kind of see what you're saying, but he's done it a lot in the Champions League, and things like that. He's got big goals, and
he didn't do nothing against United at Old Trafford last year.
You said he scored a hat-trick against you, though, last year. I know Old Trafford. But, yeah, but still, he scored a hat-trick against you.
He didn't score against Spurs last year away from home. I don't think he scored against Chelsea away from home.
Spurs?
Don't think he scored against... Yeah.
Last year, Spurs?
Still. He didn't score against Liverpool away from home last year. It's one of the things, I looked at the fantasy this weekend and I was like, which leads us nicely into the fantasy. I was like, no, he's not my captain. I think Matt's nephew was like, oh yeah, everyone's put Haaland as captain this week. Yeah, he scored a goal, but he also missed a penalty, so he probably ended up on 0 points because of the thing. He
got 4, so it would have been better to captain somebody else.
Yeah, it's just I saw they were playing away to Sheffield United, and I was like, people are just going to go and score a hat-trick against Sheffield United, but he doesn't score away from home. It's interesting. We'll do the research on that just to see just how many. I probably should have done it before I come on with that analogy, but
Well, he did score 2 away at Burnley on the opening day.
Oh, right, then I'll shut up. Yep, okay, no worries.
Scored away at Everton. Scored away at Fulham. Scored 2 away at Southampton.
Yeah, but listen to
going back to last season.
But listen to the teams you're saying.
Yeah, we need to go actually have a proper look at it.
Yeah, we'll have a look at it and see. We'll have a look at it, and you can come on next week and call me a tosser because I was wrong. Okay. Anyway, I will leave this fantasy bit to you. We'll move into the fantasy football quickly before we round it up for the week.
Well, actually, whilst we've been recording, the table has updated.
Oh, nice, cool.
And so the leader after 3 weeks is Ollie Hall. I don't actually know Ollie Hall myself. Do you know Ollie Hall?
Nope.
Right, so Ollie Hall, congrats if you're a listener of the podcast. You're top of the fantasy league, mate. You had Matty Cash in there somehow. Don't know why you had Matty Cash, but he's got 2 goals for you this week, so that's probably the main reason. Fair play, fair play. I believe, is that the game week winner as well? Has he got the most points for this week? I think he has.
He got 61.
Yeah,
is
62.
Alex.
62. He's also got the most points for this game week as well. And then, yeah, I think you were then going to say 61, Alex Fenn, 61, Manzi Tijani. And yeah, I think that's it. That is it.
Okay, so we should really be looking, really. I am actually in 38th.
Yeah.
doing all right for the community there. Right? Well, 42 points for the week. Oh, I'm not too bad with that. I'll take that. And then where are you? You're probably a little bit higher than me. 14th.
Yeah. Not
pretty
too
decent.
far off. Not too far off.
Well, everyone will start slacking off soon, won't they? So
hopefully not. Hopefully people will actually try and stick with it.
Yeah, you like to think so, but it never happens, does it? I think a lot of people start slipping off the fantasy football wagon, don't they?
But yeah, solid start though, and yeah, Ollie Hall top of that.
I will try and find who Ollie Hall is. It might be someone from Facebook. It might be someone from who knows, whoever they are. But yeah, like you said, well done to him.
Have we forgot again? Player of the week?
No.
Or were you then going to say that?
We haven't forgot about player of the week. We'll look at the refereeing decisions next week because we haven't got time for it. But I will say this: there's been some absolute shockers, and I don't think they're helping themselves with adding new rules in. They emphasise on that, and then the other stuff, which would have been like, oh, there's so many decisions where the penalty for Manchester United last week against Spurs, that's a penalty last year. There's been so many decisions where you're like, that's a penalty, that's not a penalty, this is a penalty. And you're like, why are you now letting that slip? And we'll look into it more next week. It's just because I think a lot of it's just they bring a new rule in and they just focus on it, don't they? And then it's just, I think Marco Silva said it yesterday. It seems like we're just expecting a game now to have a red card. I think the numbers of red cards, I think, was around 11 already this season. So it's just rubbish, isn't it? And, I know they wanted it to be a fair game and stuff, but it's not really, is it? Do you know what I mean? It's not really like that. You want a nice competitive game. And when you've got someone like Trent could have been sent off today for what he was, and then Tommy Asu for what he was last week, and you're just like, come on, man. Do you know what I mean? Like,
just ridiculous.
But the thing, to tell you quickly just about that, I don't know if you saw it, but obviously Trent got booked for throwing the ball away, and not 2 minutes later, I think someone else done it. Like Anthony Gordon got a free kick against him, and he just kicked the ball away. Ref didn't even notice it. It's like, okay,
consistency. Right, I mean, it's always been like that, isn't it?
Yeah. So we'll finish it off. Player of the week. Who are you going for?
A few candidates, obviously Sterling, as you mentioned. Jared Bowen also had a very good game for West Ham. But yeah. I think it's got to be Darwin Núñez, hasn't it? After today, those two finishes, won the game, 10 men, just clinical. It's got to be Darwin for me.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. I'm going for Darwin Núñez, which will probably make few people fall off their chairs if they know me and you. Absolutely hated them. I can't remember who I was going to go for last week, but first week I was going to go for Sandro Tonali. And
I think I was going to go for Isaac the first week. I think there was that chip he scored against Villa as well, and he got 2 as well. So yeah, it was nice from him. And then last week, I mean, to be fair, didn't even end up thinking about it.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, though, I will just say before we go, special mention to old Awioni from Forest. 7 consecutive games he has scored in the Premier League for Nottingham Forest, which is I think the last player to do it was Stan Collymore, which is some time ago, obviously. But that is all we have time for this week. Next week is the big game, Manchester United versus Arsenal. I suppose we'll probably decide if we're going to watch that together or not, because I think if there's going to be some sort of like rejection to that, and what's it called? Not rejection, but where you don't want it, like I can't remember the name that's on top of me. But like I won't want to watch it. So if there's going to be something like some sort of denial or anything to watch the game, it'll all come from me, because I just can't be arsed with it, man.
Yeah, this is where Arsenal end up losing, and you can't wait to do the podcast and everything.
Yeah, and like all my calls are being ignored. You do know we've got the podcast tonight. You're like, I'm fucking ain't doing it. No, fuck off. Leave me alone. No. Still, we do a prediction before we go into it, or is it too early?
Go on. We might as well do a little prediction.
Well, I did actually send Man out a group chat. I've been saying it a couple of weeks now, and I haven't told you. I'm tempted to go and put a bet on Arsenal +5. Just like, just don't hold out any.
No.
I really don't.
We've really not been that convincing yet. I think we'll win, but won't be closer than you think. I'll go 3-1 Arsenal.
Closer than you think. Cheers, mate. 3-1.
Well, yeah, you just said +5, so it is closer than you think.
Yeah. No, I just, and I've got to say it. I don't think it's because of. I think Arsenal are really good. I just think we are so shit, like especially away from home.
Yeah.
But who knows? It could be a game like we get our shit together. It could be the game where you get your shit together. It's so who knows? But I'll go for Arsenal +5. You go for Arsenal. Right. Anyway, but until next week, and there will be a podcast next week because we've got to do it. None of us, regardless of this, we've got to, because people will want to know what we're going to think, aren't they?
Sure.
And it's the transfer window ends as well, so
yeah, we'll have some few deals maybe to wrap up.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Until next week. Cheers for tuning in as usual, and we'll catch you guys later.
Cheers.
Bye.